Hello, welcome to another amazing video. My name is Ogechi. This is Ogechi Reaction. Welcome to my channel. If you're stopping by for the first time, hello, do well to click on the red subscribe button, like this video, drop your comments, turn your post notification bell, and share. It's important to do that. These things are free, okay? It helps YouTube algorithm to push out my videos to a lot of people that really wants to or are interested in seeing my video, so it helps me a lot. And we are hitting 1,000 in a few days, in less than a day. Yeah, I think in less than a day we'll be hitting 1,000. I'm super excited about this. Anyway, today's video seemed very interesting. It's coming from Town Hall. It's titled LGBTQ Activist Gets Completely Shut Down by TV Anchor During Heated Arguments. These LGBTQ activists or persons are always coming out for interviews, and they usually get their backside whooped, right? Because they're usually confused about what they claim to be, who they are now. You know, there's that confusion. They cannot explain themselves. You know, they come out to, oh, we are this and that. Okay, they ask you basic questions or questions, you know, to question who you are, and you know, it's usually very difficult for them to do that. I would love to watch this. We are going to be watching this together, so I'll be dropping my thoughts during the course of this video and after this video. Do not go anywhere. Let's watch through till the end, hear my comments, and I'd love to see yours in the comment section. Without wasting any more time, let's get into the video.
Good afternoon, Julia. You know my pronouns are they, them. How are you doing?
Yeah. Thank you for telling me your pronouns. I use correct grammar.
Why are you forcing me to use the language imprecisely just to accommodate your narcissism? All right, in England, they've been having an ongoing conversation about the fact that the National Health Service there has finally, beautifully, wonderfully, heroically, courageously, scientifically stopped the use of puberty blockers and a so-called chemical gender transition pharmaceuticals, as well as the medical procedures on children to give them so-called gender-affirming care, which, of course, Orwellian speak. Gender-affirming care literally does the opposite. It does not affirm anything that a person was born as. It actually transforms and mutilates the healthy individual from a healthy man to a healthy woman, or a healthy woman to a healthy man, or excuse me, a manufactured woman or a manufactured man. So they've been having an ongoing conversation in that country about the National Health Service making that decision. And an amazing moment happened on Talk TV last night. It's a right-leaning video outlet. I think Piers Morgan has his show there. Nigel Farage, I can't remember if he's on Talk TV or GBTV. But on Talk TV, the host of a show had a transgender activist on. And, well, the host dared to call this activist she or her, referred to her with a pronoun that was in line with their actual biological makeup. And that's when things got a little ugly.
Good afternoon, Julia. You know my pronouns are they, them. How are you doing?
They, them.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me your pronouns. I use correct grammar. So the only thing I would need to refer you to is to your face would be you. But I'm not being rude. You can choose your pronouns. You can choose what you want to call yourself, but you don't get to require me to use incorrect grammar and factually incorrect things. You're not a plural. You're one person. And you're a female person, so I will use she and her. Thank you very much.
Exactly. How are you they them? Like, you're just one person, and you don't impose that on people, because you might sound insane, but me talking to you, I am sane. I am okay upstairs, and I should use correct English, right? You can't expect me to call you, oh, they. How many are you? You're just one person. So these are the issues. These are the issues that comes up whenever these people, you know, grant interviews and we are watching them and we are reacting to them. It is so funny, honestly. But let's
Thank you very much.
Do what you like, I guess.
Well, there you are. You didn't need to tell me then, did you?
Maybe I'm just making sure people know in case they're watching and they want to refer to me respectfully.
Is it disrespectful for me to use correct factual grammar?
it's not incorrect or unfactual grammar to use singular they them pronouns for an individual. But we're here to talk about the cast review.
Yeah, but you chose to bring it up.
You chose to use the incorrect pronouns for me.
I chose to use the correct pronouns for a single woman who is appearing on my show.
I'm not a single woman, though. I'm a very special non-binary trans person, as you just pointed out. I
didn't
really
just point that
out.
I didn't just point that out. I introduced you as a journalist and a Virgin Radio presenter.
No, just before I came on, you were talking about how people with all these labels like to be special. And I'm just making sure that everyone knows I'm special.
Okay, I'm not special. I'm just a boring old heterosexual married woman. But, sorry about that. We're not allowed to do that anymore. In fact, that probably does make me special now. I don't know.
This is beautiful. And I'm so happy that she actually, because you notice this guest, Shivani Davi wanted to just, okay, let's just move on now. Let's talk about the topic. She's like, no, I'm not going to let you get away with this. Why are you forcing me to use the language imprecisely just to accommodate your narcissism? This is what needs to be done whenever possible. Listen, if a person wants to change their name, fine. I'll call you whatever name you want to be called. It's not up to me to tell you. We're all talking about this FBI investigation into Sean Combs, right? And it's great seeing people. It's Puff Daddy. No, it's Diddy. No, it's Daddy Combs, or it's P Diddy, or it's like how many times has this guy changed his name? It's like, well, go whatever. You want to change your name, but you can't force me to misuse the English language, especially a Brit. They don't like that sort of thing. They think they invented English. Sort of, but they haven't quite got it right. By the way, I do want to show you this. I brought up Shivani Davi's website, shivanidavi.co.uk. And you can see right up here in the upper right-hand corner, we got this. It says Davi, excuse me, pronouns they, them, right? Pronouns they, them, so there it is. But then when you read the bio, it's amazing. I did a search on this. There is no they, them referenced in the entire bio. Every time it says something, Shivani is a journalist, broadcaster, and physicist in Gen Z, because apparently people care about that. In the evenings, there it is. Oh, I missed that one. They moonlight as Rishi Sunak, unelected drag prime minister. What terrible policy and even worse stats was.
It sounds so odd, honestly. Even in it sounds very odd, isn't it? Very odd.
On the weekend, Shivani brings you the music to kick back at Virgin Radio. Shivani is the Radio Academy's this. Shivani is that. Everywhere down. It's torturous. How often, every single time. Here, upon graduating from University of Nottingham with a physics degree, Shivani went on to complete an MSc at Imperial College London. It's like very rarely do they even use they, them on their own bio, because it's clunky and stupid and it's poor grammar and it makes no sense. What you just saw, though, in England is a far cry what we saw here in America with this guy, Jake Tapper. Him, I think. Jake Tapper did a segment. Look how serious he is. He's furrowed his brow. He's wearing his glasses. Take him seriously, damn it. He did a segment on how the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, which is sort of the junior version of the NCAA, has banned transgender athletics. Really, let's face it, banned biological men from competing as women. It doesn't really apply to biological women who would compete on a man's team, because no biological woman could be on a man's team. So this is really about keeping women's sports fair for women. But look at how he handled the segment with a transgender activist. It's a little different.
Joining us now to discuss is journalist and author of Fair Play, How Sports Shape the Gender Debate, Katie Barnes. Katie, thank you for joining us. What do you make of the NAIA's new transgender participation policy?
Well, I think it is reflective of the times that we are in terms of, for the last 3 or 4 years, we have seen most policy updates when it comes to transgender athletes be reflective of restriction and in favor of more restrictive policy. And this seems to fall right in line with that.
There is a narrative that transgender female athletes have an advantage, that they always win, that the reason that men and women generally compete in separate gender categories is because it's not particularly competitive for men to compete against women. Do studies support that?
You have to be Jake Tapper to have to ask if studies support something that is so obvious on the face of it. And did you notice the idea that it's not fair for women to compete against biological men who are identifying as women? That's not a case that's been made. It's not an argument. It's not a position. It's a narrative. That's how Jake Tapper described it, a narrative. So when Riley Gaines and all of her teammates in the University of Kentucky swim team, or all of the young women who lost in a swim match to Leah Thomas because he's, 6'4" with a wingspan like a 737 because he's a biological man who's gone through puberty and has the bone density and muscle capacity that a little 5-foot woman is never going to have. That if they are complaining about that and say it's absolutely impossible and unfair to have to compete against this person, that's not the truth. It's not.
I think still having this conversation of, transgender women competing in a game of biological female in the same game, I think it is unfair, and we shouldn't be having this conversation. Transgender women should actually go and compete with biological male. Yeah, they should go there and compete with their real gender. Bringing a transgender woman into a female only game is not fair, and I don't think we should still be debating or talking about this now, because I feel like, it's not fair. They have stronger bones, they are faster and all those things. They do not have equal advantage. I think we've talked about this several times in our videos, where we talked about transgender women protesting and saying they want to be included in the same sport with. It is not possible. It's not. A lot of females will not be interested in such games. It will be deterring a lot of biological females in games like that, and before we know it, we'll have only transgender women in the games, and that's not right, and that's not right or fair at all.
Fact, it's not even their position or their feeling. It's a narrative. It's a narrative, Jake Tapper. By the way, this person, Katie Barnes, is an ESPN reporter as well. So, it's all about the truth and facts when you're a journalist at ESPN.
Well, I think it depends on what you mean by support that. For my reporting and having really reported this out for many years, the reality is that from a scientific perspective, we know that there are differences in sexes, and we know that the differences do tend to lead to athletic performance differences as well. However, when we look at broad-based restriction at all levels of sport, it's very challenging to say that scientifically that is supported in all cases, meaning that something that might be appropriate for swimming does not necessarily apply to basketball when it comes to individual sports versus team sports, as well as level of competition. And so the idea, I think, that transgender women have an advantage in all sports at all times, regardless of any kind of medical transition, I don't think that the scientific literature supports that at this time.
Now, you realize that, of course, wasn't the question, number one. Number two, the scientific literature doesn't support it because this is kind of a minute and a half old, and there hasn't been a whole lot of scientific studies. And those scientists, by the way, who do wish to study this are exiled from their profession because those professions are more interested in politics and the woke intersectional ladder that one must climb to get to the top of academia or science these days, rather than actually finding the truth. But that was a real fine use of words to dodge the obvious issue here, which is, on average, on any given day, will a biological man even go...
This is exactly what they do, right? When they are being asked a question, they find a way to say something out of the context. She did not directly answer that question. She went off to talk about something else that was related to it. But she did not hit the answer. She did not give the answer that was required by the question. Let's continue.
Who has gone through a gender transition, will they have an athletic advantage over a biological woman? Which is really the only question to ask. not to be framed in a narrative, Jake Tapper, and not with the hyperbolic rhetoric that you added, which is, well, these people say that women are always going to lose and that there's always an advantage. No. Let's be specific. On any given day, will the average biological man be able to compete with and beat the average biological woman? That's the only thing that's at play here. I'm sorry. Now, listen, Caitlin Clark from the University of Iowa, women's basketball player, probably can shoot better than maybe 20% of the men in college basketball, but she can't jump higher. She might be able to handle the ball better than a good portion of the basketball players in men's basketball. But generally speaking, can she play? Can Caitlin Clark, the greatest women's basketball player in college basketball history, could she play on the worst men's team in men's college basketball and compete at the same level? You know the answer to that question. And even better, the worst men's basketball team, the team that got, let's not say the worst, but the first team out of the NCAA college basketball men's championship this year. What would that be? Team number 66 out of the field of 66. Could they beat the University of South Carolina women's team that just won the championship? And I'm willing to bet that they could. That's what this is about. Jake Tapper refuses to acknowledge that.
Would there be a way to come up with a rule that was more individual specific or sport specific that might not be? I mean, it sounds as though you're suggesting, and if I'm putting words in your wrong, I apologize. In your mouth, I apologize. It sounds like you're suggesting this policy is not necessarily fair, given how blanket it is. Is there a way to do something like this that would be more fair and more reflective of what is factually known about gender differences in different sports, et cetera?
I don't know if it's right for me to say whether or not this particular policy is fair. I think that right now, where we are as a society is really grappling with what does fair and appropriate policy look like. And in general, most athletic organizations and many states across the country are embracing a blanket restriction. And I think there are a lot of people raising questions about whether or not that is fair and appropriate policy in all cases.
We're done with this for the time being, but I just, again, this person is an activist and a journalist for ESPN, which tells you everything you need to know about that entity and that cable station and how they address these issues. Sage Steele isn't allowed to have a voice at ESPN, but this person is. The biggest problem here and the biggest issue in this entire interview is not that person. It's Jake Tapper. It's Jake Tapper trying to be a fair and equal-minded journalist, which of course he isn't and never has been, and try to present both sides of this compelling issue. Is there a way to do this in a fair basis? And the only response you can get is, well, you have to redefine what fair means. Well, why not? We're redefining what man and woman means. So how about we just redefine what fair means as well? And then as long as it accommodates me and my political desires and my political goals, that's what fair means, and that's what we're going to do. And everyone will just call it fair. And if you don't think it's fair, well, it's because you're too ignorant to know what fair really means. That's what we're doing here. And Jake Tapper, to begin this entire conversation, which is about, the whole thing is supposed to be about college sports, about college men's sports and college women's sports. And the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics has decided that only biological men can play in men's sports and only biological women can play in women's sports. That's the whole point of this. So if I've got an ESPN journalist on to talk about this, I will start, for my viewers, I would start at the beginning and say, before we get into this policy, can you just help us out here? Why do we have separate sports for men and women at the college level in the first place? Please answer that. I'm begging you. Please, transgender activist. Please give me your expert opinion on that. Why, when we originated college athletics, and there was only men's athletics for a while, and then women wanted to play too, why did we decide that men's athletics and women's athletics would have to be separate? If you can answer that question, I think everything else falls into place. But between how the Brits handled their transgender activists compared to how Jake Tapper gave a full body massage to his transgender activist, we'll leave you with this. Kamala Harris certainly has her own opinion about this issue, but what's most important to her right now is that elementary children get to see as much gay porn in their libraries as possible.
All right, had it or hit it, book bans. Oh God, had it. Had it. Again, the idea that you would restrict information and the same people who are doing that are some of the same people who are denying our history. I mean, are trying to kind of just whitewash it, and I think it's absolutely horrible.
The same people who are trying to ban books, of course, nobody's trying to ban books. You want to give your children gay porn, go ahead and buy it with your own money. We're just using discretion to keep it out of a school library. That's not a book ban. That's actually being an adult and using discretion. We're trying to keep information from people. Really, do you have Hustler magazines? Is there still a Hustler magazine? Am I dating myself now? Does porn still come in magazine form? I'd ask Kevin, but he has no idea. I assure you. He's not that kind of guy. The point is, do we have archive Hustler magazines or Playboy magazines in the libraries? Because if you don't, you're keeping information from children. Why? Why are you in the business of keeping information? But the favorite part there was the same people who were doing this are the people who are whitewashing and denying our history. Yeah, the people who are tearing down statues left and right around this country for their own political purposes. Wait, those aren't the same people, are they? Wait, who's whitewashing and changing our history again? I'm so confused. I can't keep it straight. Thank God Kamala Harris is smarter than all of us. Isn't she? Sure she is.
I mean, that is, I don't know what to call it. How would you say keeping information from children? Why do you think it is keeping information from children? Children do not need such information. They do not need, what they need to do, what they need to know is grow properly, grow healthy, be kids, do what kids do, not what adults do. Do what kids do. And with the interview with the LGBTQ activist, I think he was trying to play fair, which I think is a way of babying the situation. If he asks the right questions, like trying to inquire, like asking the right questions, I think we will get somewhere. But he was trying to massage the whole thing, just like the the guy here. He was trying to massage the whole thing and make it look like, okay, let's be fair. There's nothing about being fair here. We are trying to understand your point of view, and most of the questions were not properly answered. Most of the questions were not properly asked as well. So when you're asking a question that is not properly asked, you definitely get an improper answer. Anyway, let's know your thoughts, your opinions, or what you think about this particular video. Okay, do well to like, share, comment, subscribe, turn on post notification bell, and I'll see you in my next episode. Bye bye.